All right, let's get started. Just because I know if you're in Australia, it's a little bit later in the evening, and I want to be conscious of that. But welcome everyone. So I'm going to run through our first webinar today of a series of webinars. So I'm going to be rolling out a series of these just so that you can understand what it is to exit a business, what the process is, the challenges, do some case studies, things like that. So if you have any requests for a certain type of webinar or any particular questions at the end, I'll have time for that. But yeah, just know that they are coming. So what we are looking at running through today is really quickly who is Flippa. Some of you will be new here, some of you been on the site and know Flippa, but who is Flippa? Most importantly, we're going to be talking about when to consider an exit and what that process actually looks like. So you might be fairly new to the online business world and maybe just starting a business, but it's good to start thinking about, well, hey, like what actually is involved in an exit and what does the process look like? What do you need to get ready for an exit? The question everyone wants to know, how much is my business worth? So we'll talk a little bit about valuations, who the buyers are, and just common mistakes sellers make. What's next? And I have a couple of case studies as well, just because they're interesting and they give a bit of perspective on what actually goes on. So who are we? Who are we at Flippa? We are the largest online M&A platform globally. So we use in-house business broker team who are all certified, and we combine that with our technology. So our AI buyer matching tools, our buyer directory, and our global presence around the world, our global network. We combine all that to help you sell your business. So that ends up resulting in negotiation, receiving offers faster than you would if you went more of a traditional method, where a broker might just call up their network. We have that really large global network effect to be able to reach further than just a local broker. We do have legal, insurance, and payment services. These help you on the end of a transaction, when you need to maybe bring in some legal advice and do your transfer of payments safely. I did mention briefly our AI buyer matching tool. So this is, it is a very, very advanced technology that no one else is doing at the moment, and it categorically matches buyers who have a similar they've looked at similar listings to yours, or they've said, hey, this is my criteria and this is what I'm looking for. So our tool actually matches them with yours. And then we have our benchmarking and comparison insights. So I'll go over this a little bit later, but we have live data that can show you exactly where your business is benchmarking against others that have sold or others that are for sale. So all in all, to say, we are 15 years of industry experience that gives you data-backed insights and combines our people, our business broker team, and our tech, our biomatching tools, and our data insights, and combines that into a global presence and network effect to sell your business. Who am I? Super quickly run through this. So I'm a senior M&A advisor at Flippa, and I've experienced with Flippa across multiple markets, including the US, Australia, and Asia. And I have exited a business myself, so I can empathize with everything that goes into that, the emotional roller coaster, the stress. And I have facilitated over 100 the sale of over 100 businesses. And I currently specialize in high value acquisitions exceeding $1 million within the APAC region, so Asia Pacific, Australia, New Zealand. So let's get into the meat of it. So when to consider an exit. So it's really important to understand that there is no crystal ball that we can see when the magic time is to exit. Like the market, we can predict and understand what it might do, but we just don't have that crystal ball. So a couple of things to really consider is before you have to exit. I've seen situations that are unavoidable. So a sick partner in the business, sick parent, divorce, things like that is where, despite the market conditions, you're going to be looking at a sale that's essentially a bit more of a fire sale because you have to exit. So even if you hear the market is not ideal for your business, it typically takes about 6 months for a business of $1 million to sell. So you want to avoid getting to that point where you have to sell because it will lower your valuation just on the urgency. Before burnout is one I see quite often. So business owners often get to the 5 to 8 years of running a business and they have just put their heart and soul into it and they just have lost that passion for it because it has taken so much. It's a hard thing to do. So typically they get to that point, and maybe the growth of the business is not as not what they've seen in previous years. It's slowing down, or maybe it's even declining, or they just get to a point where they say, Fiona, I just get rid of it for me. Just I'm done. So you don't want to get to that point because again, your business may suffer performance-wise, which will lower the valuation. And it may also get to a point where you're just like, I just sell it for whatever you can get. You want to have it where you're at a point and you're happy to still continue working with the working in the business, growing it as I'm selling it for you. Because as I mentioned, it takes about 6 months to sell. Finally, you want to have the business in a position where it can scale. So investors look for scalable businesses because they're coming in to buy a business to take it from that 1 to 100. You as a business owner have already taken it from the 0 to 1. You've built the framework and the idea and the concept, and you've got some sales behind you, but they're looking to come in, put their expertise in, whether that's sales, whether it's tech, marketing, and they're going to excel that growth and scale it. So you want to understand, is your business in a position where it can scale? And the reason investors want that is because that's going to get them a quicker return on their investment. So you can ask a higher valuation if your business is market ready, if it's got that readiness to go and go to the US and expand there, or go into Asia and expand there. So yeah, there are a couple of just pinpoints on when it is the best time to exit. What is, and I'm keeping an eye out in the chat and the questions and answers if you do have questions, but we can wrap it up at the end as well if you have questions. The broker process outlined, okay? So what does a broker do? Like what do you do, Fiona, on a day-to-day basis? How can you actually help me and why do I need you? So we're seasoned professionals in M&A. A lot of business owners will exit once, maybe twice or 3 times in their life. It's not something that you're doing every day. It's something that I am doing every day. As I mentioned, I've helped facilitate quite a number of transactions. So we're certified in this and we are professionals. It is a very emotional process to exit a business. So whether it's letting go of the business that you've put 10 years into, or maybe the roller coaster of thinking you've got a deal and maybe it doesn't work out and you have to do that again. It is a roller coaster. So having someone as a third party who has the experience qualifying buyers, negotiating, progressing to the next steps in the deal and doing due diligence, it helps not only progress the deal forward, but it helps manage buyers' expectations, sellers' expectations, and kind of remove a little bit of that emotional volatility that can happen there. Particularly when we get to the negotiations and the money is involved, that's when some people maybe they're not comfortable discussing the money, maybe they don't really have experience negotiating. That's how we can help. So we have access to, oh, I'm jumping forward a little bit there. We also help with the due diligence, right? So we can let you know, hey, this is something that is worth showing the buyer at this stage in the process. Maybe this is not. Maybe we wait until we get an offer to actually reveal this information. Or, hey, you do not need to reveal all your code. We can maybe show a snippet of what the tech stack is, what the code is, and protect you a little bit there from what actually do buyers need to see and when before you go too far down the process with someone. And going into that, we have our team is global. So we have global buyers everywhere. Our network is huge. And we actually have access to buyers with a liquidity of over $65.7 billion. So that means that there's a lot that goes into understanding what those buyers' needs are, what they're qualified to take on, where their money is coming from. So we can qualify them and be able to assess, are they a good buyer for your business or are they not? Okay, so this is a little bit of a step-by-step process. And I won't go into too much of this because you will get a copy of the slides once we're done with the call. But essentially, we go from, and this is in the broker service. So we will have a chat, do a evaluation of your business, assessing and like understanding the business value and verifying that. So we'll go through, do that. We will then prep everything, make sure it is, we've got the information that buyers need to see initially, and then start a data room as well for the latter part of the process. And we will essentially market the listing out to our buyer network and find you a buyer. So like I said, we've got our AI buyer matching tool that helps us with that. And then we have our more human broker strategies as well. We then move into the transaction of the negotiation of LOIs, just making sure that you have an understanding of what this deal structure is, what the best deal is, what's going to suit one seller is not going to suit another seller. Are you familiar? I'm making sure you're familiar with seller financing or earn-out structures, and just making sure that you have all the information you need to make the best decision for you, your partners, your family, whoever it is that's going to be involved in this process. Once we've got an LOI, so a letter of intent, that is where a buyer says, based on the information I have, I'm offering X amount of money in this deal structure. I would now like to conduct my full due diligence. So that's where they, pop the hood of the car and they look underneath and they look at all the nuts and bolts and everything that's in there. So this is typically around 3 weeks. It does require a lot of data. So we help you through that. We make sure that, like I said, they're seeing the information they need to see. and not necessarily the stuff they don't. And then we help the finalization of the sale. So help prep you with agreements. We help set up the trust accounts or the escrow accounts and make sure there's a safe transaction for you there. So that's just a little 6-step buy. So I will run through this one super quick, and you can have a look in your own time, but we are combining, as I've mentioned a couple of times, we're combining our humans, so our broker team, with our tech. So you're going to see your AI buyer matching tools. We've got integrated e-signs and legal documents to be done. You've got buyer and seller insurance. We've got benchmarks and comparisons. We have a ton of features that when done in combination with our broker team, you get the full service of tech plus humans. Okay, so just making sure no questions. So what do I need to exit? So before you even go down the path, like what's it going to take to organize everything to get you situated? So this will differ business model to business model. Here's some of the more common ones that you really kind of need to come and say, Fiona, can you give me a valuation? So a trailing 12-month P&L is kind of the minimum. I do prefer to see 24 months because then we can look at growth over year over year. And even longer is greater, like assessing, the more information we have, the better we can assess this. A balance sheet. So some businesses will not have a balance sheet. However, like a SaaS business typically doesn't, but your e-commerce likely will. And that's to kind of see what's assets you have, what liabilities you have. And of course, we are going to need to see, once we do get onboarded, some proof of revenue. So we actually have lots of integrations. So Shopify, Amazon, Stripe, PayPal, Xero, a ton of integrations that we can just pull that proof. And it's very easy, and it gives confidence to buyers too that what you're showing is legit. Contracts, so supplier contracts, employee contracts, any partner contracts, things like that are not absolutely critical. I have sold businesses without these before. This is just going to, I guess, I put this in there so you can think ahead, because this just makes your business that little bit tidier, a little bit more organized, and a little bit less risky for a buyer. If you've got supplier contracts, a buyer is going to come in confident that when they take over this business, the supplier is going to stick around, and they're going to stick around at X rate that you have negotiated. If you don't have those contracts, acquisition can still go through, but they're just going to question, is the suppliers or the employees going to stick around and stuff like that. So not critical, but just food for thought. And then getting into things like churn rate, lifetime value, number of active subscribers. Those are, if we're looking at recurring revenue, very crucial metrics, because buyers can then identify maybe where the gaps are in the business that they can then help fulfill and grow. That's where their opportunity is to grow the business. But also just to get an understanding of, does this align with what they're looking for? You know, a lifetime value, they might be looking for enterprise clients, and maybe your business is not catered towards that, or vice versa. Average order value, you're looking at more of an e-commerce model, where we're just looking at, is this a high ticketed high ticketed product, or is it not? Okay, all right, so we'll jump into valuations. Something that everyone loves to, it's the first thing they want to ask me is, how much is my business worth? Okay, so how do we actually value a business? When we're assessing a business, we look at two types of assets. We look at the tangible assets and the intangible. So your tangible assets, that's where we can look at it on a piece of paper and we can say, okay, financial performance is done this. If we put a multiple on it, it's going to be this. Traffic, financial performance, IP, employees, we can all look at that and say, this is what it is worth. Intangible assets, they're going to be something that is possibly very valuable to one buyer and less valuable to another. It's in the eyes of the beholder a little bit. So that's things like goodwill, the scalability of a business, and the way that we actually do a value is through comparables. So much like what you might see in the real estate market, we've got 15 years of data to say this is what has sold in the last 15 years. Yes, the market is at here, like the market 3 years ago was a little bit higher than what it is now. I should say a lot higher. But so we take in all this information and compare it to the 15 years of data we have to come up with a range. Once, as a broker, I'm going to make sure that you and I are on the same page of what that range is before we go to market. Because it's got to be a valuation that you're comfortable with selling at, and the deal structure you're comfortable selling at. And I have to understand what that is so that I can find the right buyers for you. Because like I said, we had that large global network of buyers who have a lot of money, $65.7 billion, but we need to make sure that they align with what you're looking for to exit. It's a marriage. Both people have to be happy in it to move forward. The other things to consider when valuing a business, and this kind of goes back to earlier talking about like a fire exit or a fire sale and things like that. So how urgent is your exit? If you are in very much dire need to sell your business, you are going to have to consider lower valuations. So if you need to sell, say, by October, we are going to have to consider a valuation lower in order to sell that business by October than we would if you didn't need to sell till, March of next year. So the urgency is definitely taken into consideration. The deal structure that you're open to as well. So for example, I have a business at the moment. The founders are open to earnouts, to retaining some equity, and they're open to seller financing, but they are asking quite a high multiple for their SaaS business. We can essentially negotiate something that is a higher multiple because they do have that flexibility of earnouts and equity and seller financing, because they're taking on some of the risk that the buyer would have taken on if they'd paid all cash. If you're looking for an all cash deal and to walk away, then you need to consider a lower multiple. And then finally, what's next for your business? So going back to, is your business scalable? Is your business in an industry that's maybe not going to be as evergreen as others? So is it something that's going to phase out in the near future? Or is it, is your business going to be long? Does it have longevity? So just thinking ahead and being realistic with, where is my business? Where is it at? Where is it going? And what realistically is the value of the business? So the reason I want to have these webinars is to make sure everyone has an understanding of how to prepare for an exit and get prepared early so you know where your business is and where it needs to go to get the valuation you want. So what's next for your business, and keeping that in mind helps get a realistic understanding of the valuation and set you up for success. Okay, so who are our buyers? I've been talking about them throughout the whole webinar. And I misquoted. So it's actually 107 billion in buyer liquidity. So I did shortchange us there a little bit. But we are bringing on 20,000 new buyers monthly. So even I mentioned that it takes about 6 months for a business of $1 million to sell. We get it out, the business out, we market it out to our buyer network. Second month it's out, we've got another 20,000 people to get the business out to. So the average deal budget of our buyers is $2.1 million. And this is all in USD. And the average portfolio, or number of businesses in their portfolio is 6. So we do have a number of different buyers. I'd say 3 tiers of buyers. So you have your people that are looking for something smaller. Maybe it's a side hustle. Maybe they're looking to buy quite small and then grow it to mid or large size and sell. So they're looking for, businesses under $100,000. Then you're looking for people who maybe are individuals who are looking to leave their corporate job in a couple of years. So they tend to buy something a little bit bigger that's going to be able to supplement their income in due time. So that might be that honestly ranges from quite small to up to $1 million. Sold a business out of New Zealand last year to a individual in California, and his goal is to grow that business. They both had technical skill sets. His skill set his plan is to grow that business to then be able to have that as his full-time business and get away out of a corporate world. And then finally, we have our family offices, institutional and strategic buyers. Here are just a few. And they're more well-known ones. They tend to buy, your $1 million+ dollar businesses, and tend to come to us with mandates for more than one. So yeah, we have really great relationships with those as brokers. Okay, so just jumping into some common mistakes that sellers make that I see that definitely want to make sure everyone on this call has an understanding of that. So my job is to get a deal done, but to make sure it's the right deal for a seller. So this is to me is quite important, this piece. I've seen mistakes happen, and I really do want to carry into the next deal that I work with and have them avoid that. So common mistakes that I encourage people to avoid. When you come to me and say, Fiona, I'm ready to sell, and I say, great, and we go through the process, and I, find you a buyer, or we're in the process of actually finding you a buyer, and you take a step back from that business, that causes the revenue to decline, and that changes the valuation. The valuation is fluid until the final contract is signed. That valuation is fluid. If the business goes down, the valuation goes down. If the business increases, then we can negotiate a higher asking price. I have done both. I had a case study that we'll talk about a little bit later, actually, and they took the foot off the pedal and we had to renegotiate. Making changes during the closing. So I recently just had a deal where we were closing. So we've gone that LOI where they've said, yep, everything looks good. We're just doing our final due diligence. During that time, the seller made some marketing changes to the business, which caused the decline in revenue. That meant we had to renegotiate. So just running the business as you have been, or even more aggressively, is what I typically tell sellers. Poor reporting. So this is something you can actually control from now until when you're actually ready to exit. So making sure you have your P&Ls nice, clean, not intertwined with other businesses. So if I've got a pet business, I have financial reporting and all my data in one place for that. And then in my beauty business, it's in another area. It's not P&Ls together, it's separate. And in understanding your business a little bit as well goes into that poor reporting. So making sure I have an understanding of what is the average order value for my beauty business, and what is the subscription rate for my pet business, and really having a grasp on your business. Disqualifying buyers too quickly is really interesting. So I've had people come to me and they say, Fiona, I don't want a VC. I don't want someone to just come in and take the business and chop it up and do what they need to do. It's a little bit of a misconception. I work with high net worth individuals, private equity, strategic buyers, and they don't just come in and chop it up and sell off pieces. Some do, but my job is to help understand what the buyer's motivation is, where they're getting their money from, and what they're going to do with the business, and make sure it aligns with yours. So just understanding that there is a really, really wide net of buyers out there, and sometimes the most unusual circumstance will lead to an acquisition. You do need to be able to work with that person, though, during a handoff period and stuff like that. So the chemistry is definitely important. Inflexibility, I put that in there as in regards to deal structures and valuations and things like that. Not using an escrow service. So this is extremely important. You don't know this person that is acquiring your business. They could be, you could have had great chemistry with them. You could be best mates, but they still are a stranger. So in order to protect yourself, you want to use an escrow service. We have escrow services, we have trust funds that we can help facilitate that transfer of funds, but you need to ensure that you're not just saying, here's my bank account, I've handed over the assets, now send me the money. And then not consulting a professional. So I'm not going to sit here and say, come to me and I'll sell your business. I would love to, but a professional might be a lawyer, it might be another broker, it might be someone who's done this before. Like I said, most business owners will probably only sell 1, 2, maybe 3 businesses in their lifetime. So even just speaking to someone who's done this before, coming to one of our meetups around the world and just understanding, hey, there's a buyer. Let me ask them questions of what do they look for when they buy a business, and just networking and talking to people. The more information you have, the better decision you're going to be able to make in this process. Okay, the exciting stuff. So case studies. A couple of just success stories. I'll run through these really quick. You can always have a look at them as well. So an example of this is a B2B marketplace, talent marketplace based out of Australia. It was acquired by a Hong Kong buyer who actually owns a large supplement business in Hong Kong. This was a passion project for him to buy. I work with this particular buyer quite a lot, and he just loved the platform, understood the need for the platform, and we were able to get a deal done for a very good multiple there. That's kind of an outlier. Marketplaces do see quite big multiples. This one, so sorry, that was acquired by a high net worth individual. This one, a little bit different, acquired by a app aggregator. So app aggregators, they literally what it says, they go out and buy apps and then operate them internally. So this business was based out of Singapore and acquired by a US based buyer. Very large number, $36 million. So the portfolio of 36 mobile apps. Yeah, really great business, really great acquisition. It took a very long time. So this is not a quick process, particularly for the larger size businesses. Okay. Now this one, and very quickly, was the one I mentioned before that took the foot off the pedal. So we were in the due diligence period, which is where you're getting close to closing. The owner, he took his foot off the pedal. He said, "Great job, Fiona. You found me the perfect buyer." And they truly were. It was very much a chemistry match made in heaven. He said, "Great, I'll wait to see that check cleared in my account." But due diligence took, I think it was maybe close to 6 weeks or so. And so during that time, the business declined slightly, and we did have to renegotiate. Everyone was happy, full earnout was paid out, everything was great. To this day, that seller and both the buyer are very, very happy, but that is just learn from someone else's mistake. I think this is the last one. So this one, SaaS business, it was acquired by a investor. So this one, yeah, it was just this was an internal US deal. So a lot of the ones you notice, I've talked about cross-border transactions. 67% of what we do at Flippa is cross-border. So Singapore to US, New Zealand to US, a lot of US actually. And so a high net worth individual buyer who was backed by investors bought this one. So, okay, coming into what is next. What is next is a couple of things that I want to share with you. Obviously, I am available for a phone call or just question via email. Like you said, you'll get these links and I will also pop them in the chat here. But I do want to share with everyone, Flippa does have some really great resources. So you can visit our platform to view the listings, not a problem at all. We have live data insights, and hopefully it's going to let me show you these. And we have blog posts where you will see success stories. So you'll see a lot of the case studies that I kind of mentioned just before, but I will show you our data insights if I can share the new screen. Here we go. Bear with me. Okay, share. Okay, so hopefully you can all see our data insights platform. So this is going to give you an understanding of what's trending at the moment, profit and revenue multiples, the buyer liquidity that I mentioned, time to match, things like that. And you can do it by time. You can also look at it by business type, profit revenue multiples. So you really can understand what is the live data that we're seeing. And then the last one I wanted to share is our referral program. So if you actually refer someone to Flippa and we successfully sell that business, you will get a portion of our commission. Depending on the size of the business, that can be quite a significant amount. So happy to talk through that in more detail. Happy to talk through anything on this call in more detail. But I hope you found this helpful. I'd love to hear any questions that anyone has, and I'll follow up with an email just to kind of understand the feedback as well. But if anyone has questions, they can shoot them across now. If I know I will make more profit during Q4, do I start the process now? So I would say yes. You want to start at least having the conversation with a broker, because then we can start saying, all right, this is what your P&L is going to look like now. This is what the valuation is. If, you know, as it grows, like I said, that valuation is fluid. So you can then, if it is listed, we can increase that valuation, or you can at least walk away having a conversation with a broker and say, at least I know what I need to make the process more easier, for like a better term, when I am ready to list. So definitely at least, Tanika, have the conversation. It would be great to have slides. You will get the slides. I will send them as a follow-up, and I'm always available if you have any questions about those as well. Do you have any potential buyers in India? Yes, we do. On the data insights that I just shared, that last slide, you can actually search by, you can hover over India and I'll show you the buyer liquidity there and the number of buyers. And I would also say to that, don't disqualify the buyers. So it might seem crazy that someone out of the US might be interested in your business, but definitely don't disqualify other buyers as well. How is profit calculated if the owner still works in the business for X hours a week? Really great question, Alan. So we do look at seller discretionary earnings, or EBITDA, as I prefer to refer to it, where we actually add that director's salary back in. You got to be a little bit careful, because if the buyer does have to put someone in to replace you, they're going to value it a little bit different. They might add a little bit of that salary back in, but I actually, as a broker, always take that out and make it clear to the buyer, this is the EBITDA, which does exclude taxes, depreciation, your phone, your cars, and your direct salary. I would love to know more about the referral program example. Yeah, we can set up something that shows you the process of registering for that. I can absolutely get that sorted out. And it is an exciting program because, like I said, so for example, if you did send me someone and we sell for $1 million, you get 20% of our commission. So it's quite significant. Are registered trademarks calculated separately, or do they come under some valuation? Really good question, and I did miss out on the trademarks, but they're a very important piece of the process. So they are calculated within the valuation. They're a little bit of the intangible one, because essentially a trademark, a little bit in the eyes of the beholder, but they do reduce the risk for buyers. So they are they're very much a high valued asset of the sale. So we will value everything except inventory in the same asking price, but they're going to increase your valuation absolutely. Are registered trademarks calculated? So, same question, sorry. Is a company or sole trader business more favorable? Tanika, so are you referring to like an asset sale versus a share sale? If so, It really depends on the buyer and seller. So typically in most regions of the world, a share sale is going to be favorable tax-wise to the business owner. However, if you've got multiple businesses in that company, then it's going to be quite challenging. So it's less favorable in that context. Most buyers are going to want to do an asset transfer because it's quicker. Due diligence is faster because they don't necessarily have to go into all the tax and legal background as much because they're not taking on the liabilities. And it's easier to do cross-border transactions that way. So typically they're going to see asset transfer. My online business is currently a sole trader business, but I would like to set up a PTO. Okay, got it. Again, depends on the buyer and seller. Depends where the buyer is going to be based out of. So happy to jump on a call with you, Tanika, to chat further about that one. Do I have any tips about creating a P&L for affiliate websites? I can absolutely send you a template and I can absolutely jump on a call and kind of talk through that for sure. And we can talk through, sales, the operating expenses, EBITDA, additional expenses, and net profit. So happy that might be a good another webinar. All right. I think that's coming up on 50 minutes, which I know is quite a long time to sit through and watch me chat with a slide. So I really do appreciate everyone. I appreciate everyone asking questions and adding a little bit more. But I would happily jump on a call with everyone here who's interested in learning more and just going through your business specifically or more about this. I will send out a follow-up on the slides. And if you have any interesting topics you would like to see in future webinars, please let me know and I'll see what I can do to get them organized. I will be doing one of these once a month. So keep an eye out. I really appreciate everyone. And I hope everyone has a lovely night.